Okay. So yeah, thanks Jess for inviting me here tonight to talk to the CAN Forum. It's been a while since I've been to a CAN Forum. I represent Robert Can, so I should come to more, but they often clash with my parish council meetings. But tonight's great. And it's great to have a lot of people here to hear about cycling. Particularly pleased to see the new bicycle mayor, and I wish him all the best in his journey around the district. So my name's Robin Drury-Layfield. I'm the Vice Chair of Stroud District Council's Environment Committee. I'm an independent councillor and an Equality, Diversity and Inclusion member champion, as well as being our active travel lead, which isn't an official role, just I deal with a lot of active travel place at work. I see accessibility and inclusion as fundamental in the work we're doing with active travel. It needs to be for everyone, not just for those who are physically fit or able or have the funds to buy a half-decent e-bike. We've got to open that opportunity to everyone. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the background to the work that's going on at county and district level. And I'm going to hone in on the specifics of how SDC are actively trying to support projects across towns and parishes. I think that's what you're all here for, so hopefully I'll meet that need. And how with your help, we can move them forward. But first, hang on, slide. There we go. First, I'm going to answer the question why and why now. Active travel represents, in a word, opportunity. It's the opportunity for everyone to reconnect with the world around them. Active travel is any form of journey taking that involves being outside. So it can be walking, cycling, scooting, skating, using a wheelchair and riding a mobility scooter. There are many physical and mental health benefits from walking and cycling. And for older people, a brief walk with passing nods to familiar faces and regular rest stops at public places, public benches, can help them feel included within their community. Children and young people can experience nature at first hand, rather than through a screen, and discover the profound joy in all the little things around us. And I've had many lovely journeys with my daughter on our bikes, really enjoying nature. It's been great. And I think we need to make that opportunity available to everyone. Opening up cycling routes and taking out barriers means people who are mobility impaired and dependent on scooters to get around, as well as parents pushing buggies, can enjoy our countryside and our canal sides as well. As you probably know, bikes are among the most efficient machines ever invented. And e-bikes even more so. They're more carbon efficient than a traditional bike when you factor in the carbon cost of the fuel humans need to power them. I want to really underscore this point. Creating the conditions to enable mass modal shift away from cars and towards walking and cycling is probably the single most effective thing any of us can do to mitigate the effects of the climate and ecological emergency. Weaning ourselves off fossil fuel dependency, improving air quality, and allowing nature to flourish are all vital actions that we can take, and they'll sit well with this kind of modal shift. That's why we're all here, right? So, Gloucestershire County Council has been working on major cycle infrastructure ever since the gear change report in 2020, probably going back a bit further actually. GCC is committed to increasing cycling, and the publicly stated this, by 300% across the county by 2030. So that's quite a big target they've set, but let's hold them to it. To this end, it's developed a number of what they call LC WIPs, which is LCWIP, and stands for Local Cycling and Walking Infrastructure Plans, that outline desire lines and key routes at a high level of technical detail, and they really are very technical. There are LC WIPs for Cameron Dursley, Cirencester, Tewkesbury, Central Severn Vale and Stroud, and these are all publicly accessible at www.gloucestershire.gov.uk/LCWIP. GCC is working on an overarching strategy that will create a commuter lane right across the county, connecting Stroud through Cheltenham to Bishop's Cleeve, a 26-mile long cycle spine from north to south, with funding in place currently of £14 million. This is major infrastructure work, and it's already underway. It seems like a lot of money, but compared to road building projects across the country, it's a pittance. And my perspective on this is, whilst I welcome the Cycle Spine initiative, and in fact, any investment into modal shift towards cycling and away from driving, it's very typical of transport planning and the pipeline problem, which treats all journeys as commutes from A to B, from home to work. This completely sidelines the majority of journeys, which are short distance, point to point, and often taken by carers in the family, fulfilling multiple responsibilities. For example, school drop-off, visit to the doctors, grocery collection, and pharmacy pickups. And I want you to bear that in mind when you think about the kind of projects that you want to bring forward or support. Let's make those journeys easier and more convenient, make them the right choice. This is where SDC comes in. So in 2021, Environment Committee set up a task and finish group for SDC to explore how the District Council might be able to partner with town and parish councils to work up, assist with and help deliver key walking and cycling projects. The idea was that these would feed into the LCU whips at a more local, say, tributary sort of level. There are a number of recommendations that came from this, including the appointment of the bicycle mayor to promote active travel across the district. I'm delighted that that's now happened. I'm especially delighted that it's James that was appointed. It was appointed by a Dutch organisation called BYCS that represents the global bicycle mayor movement. And it's great to see him here tonight. There's also an interest in e-bike hire schemes and last mile deliveries. The main output of this task and finish, though, was to work closely with towns and parishes to help them deliver key local walking, cycling infrastructure, and we had budget for that needed to be allocated. It was important to us that these projects were viable, that they originated with the towns and parishes, and that they met a defined need. We had quite a strong response from town and parishes right across the district, and this mainly focused on walking, which was very reassuring to us, as opening opportunities to walk instead of driving is fundamentally important, and increasing accessibility is key. We've so far committed finance from Walking Cycling Fund to the following projects: 10k for the Rodborough access to the bridge bike track at Warbridge, 75k for the Wootton Greenway detailed design, and that's combined with 70k from the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, 30k for a feasibility study into the steps at Dubbridge on a major national cycle route. You have to go down a flight of steps, a very steep flight of steps. 20k towards the Cam Dursley Greenway design feasibility for on-road sections. 42k for Keynes Cross Road design and feasibility. 10k for Frampton improvements to pedestrian links to the canal. 75k resurfacing the Stroud to Stonehouse commuter route from Dubbridge to Ryford, with additional match funding from Community Infrastructure Levy and Gloucestershire County Council. And 20k for improving the accessibility of Berkeley Town Centre. These are quite big figures, but when you're doing earthworks and infrastructure build, they cost a lot of money. Even feasibility studies cost a lot of money, and sometimes that puts these kind of projects beyond the reach of town and parish councils. So it's important we work together. In addition to this, SDC has supported work in Nailsworth, including a bike parking and repair station, and some smaller projects, such as replacing signs and stiles. Okay, where are we? In the most recent budget, Environment Committee Chair Chloe Turner, who's also on the call tonight, so feel free to ask her questions as well, and I've pressed for a further budget increase of 250k to support more projects across the district. This was passed and then extended by a further 250k for the following year, 2025 to 2026. So there are funds available for projects, and it's important to stress that. It's also important to recognise that some of these projects take a very long time to complete, and that money committed now might not be spent for a year or two. This has actually been our biggest challenge so far, not so much in allocating the funds, but in seeing projects through to delivery. Okay, so how do we get a project off the ground? There's no formal grant application process. Applying for funding is about demonstrating partnership working, and the preferred route is for projects to come through parish and town councils. That said, we do also welcome applications from CANs and community interest groups, and applications can come to Chloe or myself or any district councillor. The ideal contact, though, is Simon Maher, M-A-H-E-R, the officer responsible, who can also provide guidance on how to meet the priorities that have been set for funding. His email address is simon.maher, M-A-H-E-R, at stroud.gov.uk. I'll share information after the meeting if anyone wants that. How we can help. Funding is the main thing. We can grant partial or full funding, or help to draw down match funding from other sources such as Gloucestershire County Council, the Shared Prosperity Fund, or the Community Infrastructure Levy. Feasibility studies. For bigger projects that need significant budget, i.e. they need to be led by county, the preferred route is to commission a feasibility study that can then be used by county for internal bidding for project funding. This often appears to be the only way to get the wheels turning at GCC, so it's a key thing to do, key action to take. And finally, we have a great deal of officer expertise at council, particularly with planning, land ownership and legal inquiries. So do lean on the council for that kind of help. SDC is willing and committed to helping make walking and cycling a realistic alternative right across the district. We know there are considerable challenges and we're in it for the long haul. The way that projects have funding allocated is through a prioritisation tool. This helps us determine what project to fund next. I'm just going to pop that on the screen. I don't know if you can see that clearly. So projects need to comply with any local plan or neighbourhood development plan or LCWIP requirements. If the project links into the strategic network, so much the better. Projects are also run through the propensity to cycle tool, which helps judge the benefits based on the availability nearby of key local resources, such as shops and schools, and the likelihood that people might choose to cycle there if a clear pathway was made for them. If there are wider benefits in terms of supporting less advantaged areas or delivering rapid modal shift, for example, improving bike access to a local station, and whether they're environmental sensitivities, these count hugely. Also, how deliverable the project is. Does it require land acquisition or significant earthworks? Is there match funding available, i.e. from town or parish? Has it already been partially progressed? Finally, we assess the fundamental benefits of the proposed scheme across the dimensions of safety, accessibility, segregation away from road traffic, and links to business. If you can meet all those criteria, then you've got a good chance of getting funded. Challenges. There's a number of challenges that we've faced so far, and this is where input from CANs and community groups can help move projects forward. Number one, communication. We've tried to reach out and engage with towns and parishes, and depending on their makeup, some will come forward and some will not. Others are now showing interest, and what I'll say is Chloe and I are always willing to talk to anyone with a project, and we can guide you towards submitting an application. Also, parish and town councils traditionally move quite slowly. They may only have one meeting a month that's relevant to the project, and sometimes have to enter protracted legal and land discussions. It can take months to get anywhere. And there's very little we can do about this, but it does impact the pace of delivery. And what I will say from my experience as a parish councillor is that if there are people in the room participating in the meeting and coming back repeatedly to scrutinise progress, then things will start to move. I think the CANs can do a lot of work in that area. Finally, preparation and organisation. The more well realised the project is, the more likely it is to get funding. But some projects are so big they take time and many hands to put in place. Often they need niche skills or specific expertise, so your volunteer base needs to be committed and comprehensive. My advice to you is this: find a project that meets the priority requirements, that makes a walking or cycling route more accessible. Start with something small, take this to parish or town council and work with them to prepare something for submission for funding. Get your district councillor involved as well. And above all, work together to get your project off the ground. And then come back with the next one. There's no limit to the number of projects that can be submitted. There's only a limit to the amount of funding that's ultimately available. That's pretty much it. I'm happy to take questions, and I'll put together a pack with some of this information for you if Jess can share that out. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Yeah, I actually hadn't realised how much had already been done, in all honesty. So thank you for that. I'm sure there are other questions from other people rather than just listening to me, though. Has anyone got a question for Robin, or a project they would like to ask him about potentially?
Jess, sorry. Hi, Robin. Thank you very much. Very
interesting.
I wonder, you mentioned prioritisation of one of the in the list linking to businesses. One of the things that I'm really concerned about is young people cycling to school. And I've noticed that in other of our sort of more urban settings, Gloucester particularly, there are huge numbers of young people cycling to school and college, and we just don't have that in Stroud. It's potentially due to the topography, which is an obvious thing, but you know, we're also really lacking in safe routes to schools, and I think it's a great pity not to add that to the list of things that would be a priority. And I am aware that in the past there have been many conversations about cycling routes and what we should and where we should prioritise, and I don't think that those conversations have taken into account the needs of young people enough. That to my knowledge. So put me straight if I'm wrong, but obviously we're the obvious go-to for a collection of young people who are interested in cycling, and nobody's asked us. So it does beg the question, if you have done that, who have you asked? And is there anything we can do to help with that?
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And that's top of my mind. As you probably know, I moonlight as a lollipop man, so I'm very concerned with the safety of children going to school, and I'm always thrilled when kids cycle in. It's not that many that do, but they do, and they do it day in, day out, which is fantastic. And that's up quite a steep hill. I'd love to see more children cycling to school. I know there are questions about Keynes Cross, the roundabout, getting to Archway, and I think there is more work that can be done. I would say probably the reason that projects haven't come forward in that area yet is because we first approached town and parish councils, and it's taken a while to draw them out and start to develop projects, and they need to be driven, and perhaps it's their priorities that probably need to be looked at and encouraged. But yeah, I'm happy to do work, and I think you are right. We want to reach out to more community groups, so yeah, come to us, come and have a chat. I'm happy to support young people all day long. Got 2 young people I'm supporting.
Well, that's
already.
great. Well, rather than us come to you, I think the obvious thing to do is come to the bike workshop, you know, on a busy afternoon and chat with young people there about what they're doing.
That's a great suggestion. Thanks, Anna.
Just on that, would your advice to schools and school communities to do that as well, then, to move through their parish councils, or go to you first?
I think if the parish council's involved, it's helpful because they have eyes on everything that's important to the parish. They probably know what highways are doing, they know what the local concerns are. So it's always useful to talk to the parish council. I think schools tend to be quite inwardly focused with the education, so they're probably not concerned too much with how kids are getting there. They might be concerned with where parents are parking. So, yeah, oh, sorry, as you can see, Chloe's, are you wanting to comment or ask a question?
Sorry, yeah, I just wanted to add actually on that point. I mean, I think it's important to stress that our work at District is complementary to GCC's work, and GCC is the Transport Authority, so has the primary responsibility for cycle infrastructure. And the Think Travel team in particular, one of their primary objectives is safe routes to schools for cycling. And so they would be the first port of call on that. We are seeking to mop up some of the local stuff that's not happening because GCC are focusing on strategic routes to a large extent. It's also fair to say that this is the beginning of the consultation process. So Robin coming out tonight to talk to everyone, and we're going to be out to parish councils. So it's not that we have excluded young people, it's that we're just starting the process of chatting to people and making sure that people are aware that this funding exists. And we'd love to have conversations, and we'd love to come to the bike workshop and all sorts of things. Anyone who will talk to us really, but we're just at the start of the process. So no one's being left out by any means.
Yeah, I'd like to echo that.
Thank you. Has anyone else got any questions? Can I just ask if there's anyone? Oh, hello. Hey, Robin.
Yeah, I was just going to emphasize a point made earlier on about health. And on our website, there's a lovely story, a video of a young woman who has got fibromyalgia, and I was struggling to get to her rural employer and got an e-bike from us. And then in the video, she talks about how this bike's transformed her world, her mental health, her physical health, her economic health. So, the impact that good transport can have, which is low cost, is so dramatic. And I think for the young people thing, if you've got a very hilly route, then it might be worth thinking about whether, because there's a very good e-bike conversion kit made in the UK, and that might be an option if young people are struggling to a school which is really up a steep hill. Actually advertising that, letting people know about it, because it wouldn't, if parents could get rid of a second car, it would make such a difference. And the number of schools which are polluted by cars standing outside them is absolutely horrific.
I think they're all very fair points, Robin.
So have you got a question, James?
that me, James? Sorry, there's multiple.
Sorry, yeah.
Aren't there? Yeah, I was just thinking, Robin, you talked about the prioritization tool for the funding, and you talked about different budgets over different years. So I was wondering about some of the kind of requirements around projects applying. Is there like a capital revenue kind of thing going on? Does it all have to be single year funding, or can projects apply for multi-year funding? That sort of, those kind of questions around how the money is actually distributed.
Yeah, they're very good questions. I think I'd have to refer you to Simon Mayer, who's handling the finer technical details.
Yeah.
But I think it's about making sure that we're continuing to invest in active travel as much as we can.
Cool, thanks. And thanks for a great presentation as well, Robin.
Thanks, James.
Thank you. Can I ask anyone from, because this is the Climate Action Network Forum, so if anyone is representing one of the CANs here, does anyone here have an idea to have an active travel project, or are you just mulling it over at the moment? It's an open question to anyone.
It's Paul Archer here. Yeah, I mean, Horsley can have been thinking about these sorts of projects for a while, and not really made a lot of progress. So we've done a few guerrilla actions, but now that in Horsley there's a slightly separate group project now set up to look at walking and cycling, and we've been talking to Robin and Chloe and trying to work out how we can put together some sort of bid, both on the walking side to improve styles, for example, and on the cycling safety and walking safety, for that matter, down the main B road that goes through our village and into Nailsworth, which is feels pretty dangerous as a walker myself. So we're starting to think through projects to try and put together some sort of bid or series of bids that would be for Robin and Chloe's consideration.
Oh, that's great to hear. Yeah, we were hoping that someone somewhere might be doing something. I should have suspected you were. Yeah, if you could keep us in the loop on how that's going, that would be amazing. I said it, so no one else here is considering it yet. Got other.
Hi, I'm Claire Carpenter. I'm from Chalford CAN, and we've been just on the transport group, and we've been trying to encourage bike racks all over the place, and struggling a little bit. We've got some at Bussage School now, and various sort of community groups are interested in having some money towards bike racks. But I think another stage on would be, you know, if we could get some sort of e-bike hire scheme, that would be absolutely amazing. But it sounds like a reasonable amount of work to get that going, and we're a really small group, but it's really good, you know, food for thought to get going on it.
Yeah, I think that's part of the problem is whatever project you come up with, there's a lot of work just to prepare it. I think that's a challenge, and maybe that's something we can help with as well. In terms of e-bike hire, have you had a chat with the bike drop? Because I think they're looking at, yeah, because I think they're looking to set up an e-bike hire scheme. So maybe you can partner with them.
Yeah,
and that's right on your doorstep as well.
Yes, it certainly is. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Good idea.
It's Paul Archer again. I think one of the challenges that I think we're beginning to face and we're trying to overcome is this relationship between SDC and GCC on the funding, because, as you say, transport is ultimately the responsibility of the Highways Division, and we're engaging with them in Horsley because we recognise that a lot of the projects that we'd really like to undertake to improve safety are going to take quite a lot of infrastructure change, and that's going to require money. And we've tried to get some of these projects through in the past, and there's always been a funding issue, but we're trying to engage with GCC as well as SDC and trying to get the funding and I suppose the willingness to engage in a feasibility study, which would then allow Highways to do something a bit more substantial than we've been able to manage in the past. So we're trying to do some small projects like improving styles, but some of these bigger projects need GCC engagement, and it's an interesting relationship between the funding pots and the responsibilities that I think it's going to be a challenge to negotiate that.
Yeah, but that's a challenge that we can help you with, Paul, because we've got a really good relationship with GCC. We kind of know how things work a little bit. That said, GCC have got their own priorities, which might not meet our local priorities in Stroud, and they have this arcane system where nothing's funded. You have to bid for funding, and you've got to win a bid internally even to get funding for it, which I think slows the whole process down a bit. And I think we try and help a little bit by funding feasibility studies that are ultimately undertaken by GCC that then help GCC unlock the funding for future work. But yeah, come to us if we can help.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, and we plan to do that. Thanks.
Thanks. I think Megan's got a question, and after that, if we can hear a little bit from James Jeffrey, the bike bear, that would be great.
Okay.
Yeah, hi.
Oh my God.
Sorry, me again.
Oh, okay.
Feel good. Mine was more of a sort of general linked point. That so a couple of the groups that I'm a part of have we've done some work with GCC about transport and active travel and that provision for young people, which has been overall very positive. And I wanted to mention that in Stroud we are very lucky. We are currently the only of the 7 districts that is taking up the funding. Currently has a process to take the funding from the council, so yay. But also just that there are, if you, as Anna said earlier about young people, their stuff is very bike related. But again, there's a couple of other groups such as the Gloucestershire Youth Climate Group and Stroud District Youth Council, which we like working together and working with all the different council levels. So again, more young people, those groups are useful. And there are various things already happening at the county council in terms of this sort of active travel thing, and they have to bid for things too. And there's a lot of bidding that, as Robin mentioned, slows things down. But young people are useful, yay. Was a more general point there.
Thanks, Megan. Yeah, and there's the Gloucestershire Community Rail Partnership as well. I think are based at CS, and they're doing a lot of work in travel in general, aren't they?
Yes. Yeah. And there's a very useful youth transport survey that they did a couple of years ago. And if anyone wants any information about youth travel, that's a useful one.
Well, that sounds like a great topic for a future presentation, Megan.
Just to reiterate, Megan, thank you. So we don't run GCRP, but we do run the Gloucestershire Youth Climate Group. GCRP, we do work quite closely with the partnership, and the definition of active travel includes public transport with them, which is obviously very useful. And what they're exploring, which I hope is part of the whole sort of thinking around it, is integration of buses and trains, which at the moment, as we all know, just doesn't happen, which is just a bit bonkers, isn't it, really? So that thinking about it in that integrated way is really useful. And one of the sorry, I won't go on for much longer, but one of the things that the GCYP, the Gloucestershire Youth, GYCP did, the Gloucestershire Youth Climate Group, was to work with the county council on their transport plan, and the way that the young people interpreted it is just fantastic. And I know that the youth council does similar things with the district council, and it would be, I think, yes, it would be really fantastic to involve young people in looking at that in terms of your inclusion agenda, Robin, because young people understand what's understandable, and they have ways of interpreting things and sharing information that the rest of us long since forgotten. So I do really recommend that level of engagement that we've had with the climate group around that transport plan across the county in the district. I think it would be a fantastic idea.
Thanks, Anna. Yeah, I think it's probably fair to say that young people spend more time travelling, and that needs to be recognised. There was a lovely image that circulated on social media recently, and it just described how the visibility of children, particularly on bikes, is a measure of the health of a travel network. Because you see it's a safe area, and it's a bit like was it seeing otters in the water? You know, this it's the revival of nature almost. So I think we need to encourage more safe travel, more active travel, and better chance for young people to travel as well. Totally appreciate that.
No, thanks for those contributions.